I've got to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable, and I hope it does. Most people are living their lives on autopilot. They wake up, go through the motions, collect their paycheck, watch television, go to bed, and then do it all over again. Day after day, week after week, year after year. And here's the terrifying part. They don't even realize they're sleepwalking through the one life they've been given. They're waiting for things to get better, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for someone to notice them, waiting for life to somehow magically transform while they're standing still. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you stretched yourself, challenged yourself, scared yourself a little bit? If you have to think too hard about that answer, we need to talk. Because here's what I've learned after all these years. Growth isn't something that's optional if you want to live a life worth living. It's not a luxury for people who have extra time or extra money. Growth is the difference between truly living and merely existing. It's the difference between designing your life and letting life happen to you. I'll never forget when this truth hit me right between the eyes. I was 25 years old, working hard, I mean really working hard, and I was going broke. How is that possible, right? I had a job, I was showing up, I was doing what I was supposed to do. But at the end of every month, I had more bills than money, more obligations than options. I remember standing in my little apartment, looking around at what I'd accumulated in my life and realizing that if things didn't change, this was it. This was going to be my life. Not because the economy was bad or because I didn't have opportunities or because someone was holding me back. It was because I wasn't growing. I was the same person I'd been at 20, just 5 years older. That's when my mentor asked me a question that changed everything. He said, "Jim, how much money do you want to earn?" I told him I wanted to earn more. He said, "Then you have to become more. Income rarely exceeds personal development." Think about that for a moment. You cannot have more until you become more. Not because the world is unfair, but because value in the marketplace is determined by what you bring to the marketplace. And what you bring to the marketplace is a direct result of who you've become. Here's the philosophy that turned my life around, and I've been teaching it for decades because it's true. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they probably have planned for you? Not much. When you're not obsessed with your own growth, you become a tool in someone else's empire building. You become a cog in a machine that someone else designed. And listen, there's nothing wrong with working for someone else. I did it. Most people do it. But even if you work for someone else, you should be working on yourself for yourself. Now, some people hear the word obsessed and they get uncomfortable. They say, "Jim, that sounds extreme. That sounds unhealthy." Let me tell you what's extreme and unhealthy. Being broke. Being stuck in the same place for 20 years. Having dreams that you never pursue. Watching your life slip away while you wonder what could have been. That's extreme. Being obsessed with your growth, with becoming better, smarter, more capable, more valuable, that's not crazy. That's survival. That's the only rational response to a world that's changing faster every single day. The real danger isn't in trying and failing. The real danger is in not trying at all. It's in accepting mediocrity as your permanent address. It's in looking at where you are and saying, "Well, I guess this is as good as it gets." Let me tell you something. If you're breathing, it's not as good as it gets. If you're alive, you're capable of growth. If you have a brain and a beating heart, you have everything you need to become more than you are right now. But here's what most people do. They confuse activity with productivity. They confuse motion with progress. They're busy all day long, running around checking off their to-do list, putting out fires, responding to emails. And at the end of the day, they collapse into bed exhausted, feeling like they accomplished something. But when you look at their life from a distance, when you zoom out and look at where they were last year compared to where they are this year, what do you see? The same person, the same income, the same problems, the same complaints. They've been active, but they haven't been productive. They've been in motion, but they haven't made progress. Here's a little test I want you to take right now. Think back 5 years. Where were you 5 years ago? What were you earning? What were your skills? What were your habits? What were you reading? Who were you spending time with? Now look at where you are today. Are you a different person? Have you grown? Have you learned new skills? Have you developed new capabilities? Have you increased your value? Or are you just 5 years older with 5 more years of experience doing the same things the same way? The truth is, most people are simply getting older. They're not growing. They're aging. There's a massive difference. Aging happens automatically. You don't have to do anything for that. You wake up and another day has passed. Another year has gone by. But growth requires intention. Growth requires effort. Growth requires that you make a decision to become obsessed with your own development. I meet people all the time who tell me they're working on their goals. They've got their vision boards up, they've written down what they want, they're thinking positive thoughts, and that's all fine and good, but here's what I ask them. What are you doing differently today than you were doing last month? What new book are you reading? What new skill are you learning? What new habit are you building? And usually they look at me with blank stares. They want different results, but they're not willing to become a different person. See, the problem is we've been sold this idea that success is about finding the right opportunity, being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people, and sure, those things can help. But they're not the foundation. The foundation is you. The foundation is who you are becoming every single day. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Let me say that again because it's critical. Success is not something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you become. When I was 25 and broke, I thought my problem was that I needed more money. I thought if I could just get a better job, a higher salary, win the lottery, then everything would be fine. But my mentor helped me see the truth. He said, Jim, if someone gave you $1 million right now, you'd lose it within a few years because you're not a millionaire on the inside. You haven't developed the habits, the disciplines, the thinking patterns of someone who builds and maintains wealth. The money would slip through your fingers because you're not ready for it. That hit me hard because I knew he was right. I wasn't thinking like a successful person. I wasn't acting like a successful person. I wasn't developing myself like a successful person. I was waiting for success to find me while I stayed exactly the same. And that's the trap. That's what keeps people stuck. They want their circumstances to change without them having to change. They want the fruit without planting the tree. They want the harvest without doing the work of preparation and cultivation. The cost of staying the same is enormous. It's not just about money, though. That's part of it. It's about what you miss. It's about the experiences you don't have, the relationships you don't build, the impact you don't make, the life you don't live. Every day you stay the same is a day you're not becoming who you're capable of becoming. And those days add up. Those days become weeks, months, years. Before you know it, decades have passed and you're still the same person you were, wondering where all the time went. The world around you is changing, whether you like it or not. Technology is advancing. Industries are transforming. New opportunities are being created while old ones disappear. The question is, are you changing with it? Are you learning? Are you adapting? Are you growing? Or are you trying to hold on to the past, trying to keep things the same, trying to stay comfortable in what you know? Because I'll tell you right now, comfort is the enemy of growth. The moment you get comfortable is the moment you stop growing. And the moment you stop growing is the moment you start dying. Now, I'm not talking about physical death. I'm talking about that slow death of potential, that gradual dimming of the light inside you that knows you were meant for more. I'm talking about the death of dreams, the death of possibilities, the death of the person you could have become. That's the real tragedy. Not that you failed trying to grow, but that you never tried at all. That you let fear or laziness or comfort keep you exactly where you are. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending that everything is fine when you know deep down that you're capable of so much more. Stop making excuses about why you can't change, why you can't grow, why you can't become better. Stop blaming your circumstances, your past, your education, your family, the economy, the government. Stop waiting for permission or for the perfect moment or for someone to hand you a roadmap. The truth is simple. If you want your life to change, if you want things to get better, you have to get better. If you want more, you have to become more. This is the wake-up call. This is the moment where you decide, am I going to keep sleepwalking through my life, or am I going to wake up and take control? Am I going to stay comfortable in mediocrity, or am I going to become obsessed with my own growth? Because I promise you, 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. The question is where? The answer to that question depends entirely on what you decide to do starting right now, today, this moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things settle down, or when you have more time, or when conditions are perfect. Now, let me tell you about the day that changed everything for me. I was sitting across the table from this successful man, my mentor, and he asked me a simple question. He said, Jim, in the last 90 days, how many books have you read? I sat there, and I had to tell him the truth. 0, not one. In 90 days, I hadn't read a single book. And he looked at me with this expression, not judgment, not anger, just this profound disappointment mixed with concern. He said, Jim, that's why you're struggling. You're trying to succeed in business, you're trying to build a life, but you're not feeding your mind. You're starving yourself intellectually and wondering why you can't grow. That moment was humiliating, but it was also liberating. Because suddenly I understood something fundamental. I had been going to work on my job, but I hadn't been going to work on myself. I had been trying to earn a living, but I hadn't been trying to earn wisdom. I had finished my formal education years earlier and just stopped learning. I thought I knew enough. But here's the truth he taught me that day. Formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Think about that distinction. Formal education is what gets you the job. It's necessary. It's important. It gives you the basics. But self-education, that's what makes you valuable. That's what makes you stand out. That's what transforms you from just another worker into someone who creates opportunities, who solves problems, who leads. The school system teaches you information. Self-education teaches you transformation. School gives you a diploma. Self-education gives you a philosophy for living. I started reading books like my life depended on it because it did. 30 minutes every day, minimum. Some days an hour, some days more. And here's what happened. Everything started to change. Not overnight, not all at once, but gradually, consistently. My thinking changed. My vocabulary changed. My confidence changed. My income changed. All because I decided to become a student again, not in a classroom, but in life. The interesting thing about self-education is that you get to choose your teachers. When you read a book, you're essentially sitting down with someone who has dedicated years, sometimes decades, to mastering something. They've made the mistakes, learned the lessons, figured out what works and what doesn't. And they've distilled all of that into a few hundred pages that you can read in a week. Think about that. Someone spent 20 years learning something, and you can learn it in a week. That's not just education, that's leverage, that's power. I remember reading a book about sales techniques, and there was one chapter, just one chapter, that gave me an idea for how to approach my clients differently. I implemented that idea the very next day, and it resulted in 3 sales that week that I wouldn't have made otherwise. Those 3 sales paid for that book about 1,000 times over. But more than that, that one idea changed how I thought about selling. It opened up a whole new way of seeing my work. One book, one chapter, one idea. That's all it takes sometimes to completely shift your trajectory. But here's what most people don't understand. It's not just about reading books. It's about becoming a student of everything. It's about learning from people, from experiences, from your own mistakes and successes. Every person you meet knows something you don't. Every situation you face has something to teach you. Every failure contains a lesson. Every success contains a principle. But you only learn these lessons if you're paying attention. You only grow if you're actively looking for the wisdom in every experience. I've made it a practice to learn from everyone. The successful businessman can teach me about strategy and vision. The struggling single mother can teach me about resilience and determination. The child can teach me about curiosity and wonder. The elderly person can teach me about patience and perspective. See, when you become obsessed with growth, you realize that teachers are everywhere. The whole world becomes your classroom. Every conversation becomes a seminar. Every challenge becomes a workshop. Let me tell you what separates successful people from unsuccessful people. It's not intelligence. I've met brilliant people who are broke. It's not education. I've met people with multiple degrees who can't pay their bills. It's not even hard work. I've met people who work themselves to exhaustion and have nothing to show for it. The real difference is this. Successful people are always learning. They're obsessed with it. They read, they listen, they observe, they question, they experiment. They're like sponges, constantly absorbing new information, new perspectives, new strategies. Unsuccessful people, on the other hand, think they already know. They stopped learning years ago. They're running on old information, old strategies, old thinking, and then they wonder why they're getting old results. Here's a practice that changed my life. I started keeping a journal. Not a diary where I write about my feelings, though. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about a journal where I capture ideas, lessons, insights. When I read something powerful, I write it down. When someone says something wise, I write it down. When I learn something from an experience, I write it down. And then regularly, I go back and review what I've written. This practice has been worth millions to me, literally. Because ideas that you don't capture and review, you lose. Lessons that you don't record and revisit, you forget. The human mind is interesting. It can hold vast amounts of information, but it's also incredibly forgetful. How many great ideas have you had while driving or in the shower that you lost because you didn't write them down? How many lessons have you learned the hard way only to forget them and make the same mistake again? A journal solves that problem. It becomes your own personal textbook filled with wisdom that's specifically relevant to your life, your challenges, your goals. But let me tell you what I've learned about learning. It has to become a lifestyle, not an event. Most people treat education like it's something you do until you're 22 and then you're done. They walk across that graduation stage, get their diploma, and close the book on learning. They think, okay, I'm educated now, I can stop. But that's exactly backward. That's when your real education should begin. That's when you get to choose what you learn based on what you actually need to know, not what some curriculum committee decided. I invest more money in my own education now than I ever did when I was in school. Books, seminars, courses, mentors. I see these as investments, not expenses. Because every dollar I invest in my own development comes back multiplied. When I learn how to communicate better, I can influence more people. When I learn how to think more clearly, I can solve bigger problems. When I learn how to manage my time better, I can accomplish more in less time. Every skill I develop, every piece of knowledge I acquire, every insight I gain makes me more valuable. And when you become more valuable, the marketplace rewards you. Here's something else I've learned. You have to feed your mind like you feed your body. Think about it. You wouldn't go a whole day without eating, would you? You'd be weak, you'd be tired, you couldn't function. But most people go days, weeks, months without feeding their mind anything of substance. They're on an intellectual starvation diet and wondering why they feel stuck, why they're not growing, why they can't seem to get ahead. Your mind needs nutrition just like your body does. It needs ideas, inspiration, knowledge, wisdom. And just like your body, if you feed it junk, you get junk results. What are you feeding your mind? Are you reading books that challenge you, that stretch you, that introduce you to new ways of thinking? Or are you just consuming whatever is easy, whatever's entertaining, whatever doesn't require any effort? Are you listening to people who have achieved what you want to achieve? Or are you listening to people who are just as stuck as you are, just as broke as you are, just as frustrated as you are? Are you seeking out new experiences that force you to grow? Or are you doing the same things the same way, staying in your comfort zone, avoiding anything unfamiliar? The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of the information you're exposing yourself to. If you're listening to complainers all day, you'll become a complainer. If you're reading about problems all day, you'll become focused on problems. If you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't going anywhere, you probably won't go anywhere either. But if you're reading about success principles, if you're listening to people who have overcome challenges, if you're surrounding yourself with growth-minded individuals, that's going to affect you too. You become like the information you consistently expose yourself to. Let me give you a simple but powerful practice. Read 30 minutes every day. That's it, just 30 minutes. Most people waste 30 minutes before they even get out of bed scrolling through their phone, looking at what everyone else is doing. Take that same 30 minutes and invest it in yourself. Read something that will make you better. Read something that will teach you a new skill. Read something that will inspire you to take action. 30 minutes a day is 3.5 hours a week. That's about 15 hours a month. That's roughly 180 hours a year. Do you know how many books you can read in 180 hours? Do you know how much you can learn? Do you know how much you can grow? But most people won't do it. They'll say they don't have time. They'll say they're too tired. They'll say they'll start next week. And 5 years from now, they'll be in the exact same place they are today, still saying they don't have time, still saying they're too tired, still saying they'll start next week. Meanwhile, the person who invests 30 minutes a day in their own development, 5 years from now, they'll be living a completely different life. They'll have different skills, different income, different opportunities. Not because they got lucky, not because someone handed them something, but because they became more. Here's the bottom line. You're either growing or you're dying. There's no standing still. The world doesn't pause while you figure things out. Your competition isn't waiting. Your industry isn't frozen in time. Life is moving, and you're either moving with it, growing with it, learning with it, or you're falling behind. And falling behind doesn't feel like falling at first. It feels like staying the same. It feels safe. It feels comfortable. But years later, when you look around and realize how far behind you've fallen, it won't feel safe anymore. It'll feel like regret. So make the decision today to become a student of life. Make the decision to be obsessed with learning, with growing, with developing yourself. Not because someone is making you, not because it's required, but because you understand that the best investment you'll ever make is the investment you make in yourself. That investment can never be taken from you. The economy can crash. The stock market can collapse. You can lose your job. Your business can fail, but the person you've become, the knowledge you've acquired, the skills you've developed, those stay with you forever. And they become the foundation for everything you rebuild, everything you create, everything you achieve. Now let me tell you about the part that most people don't want to hear. The part that separates those who dream from those who achieve. It's not enough to understand that growth is important. It's not enough to read a few books and get inspired. The real transformation happens in what you do every single day. It happens in the small, seemingly insignificant actions that most people overlook because they're not dramatic, they're not exciting, they don't make for good stories. But I'm telling you right now, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Let me say that again, because it's one of the most important things I've ever learned. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And here's the flip side. Failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. It's that simple. It's not complicated. You don't need a PhD to understand it. The person who reads 30 minutes every day will over time become educated. The person who exercises 30 minutes every day will over time become healthy. The person who saves 10% of their income every month will over time become wealthy. These aren't secrets. These aren't complicated formulas. These are simple disciplines that anyone can do, but most people won't do them because they don't seem to matter in the moment. That's the trap. That's what keeps people stuck. They look at these simple disciplines and think, what difference will 30 minutes of reading make today? What difference will one workout make? What difference will saving a few dollars make? And they're right. It won't make much difference today. That's the problem. The error in judgment doesn't feel like it matters in the moment. Skipping your reading today doesn't make you a failure. Skipping your workout today doesn't make you unhealthy. Spending instead of saving today doesn't make you broke. But do it every day for 5 years and suddenly you look up and realize you're in a completely different place than where you wanted to be. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this perfectly. If I gave you a penny today and doubled it every day for 31 days, how much money would you have? Most people guess a few $100s, maybe a few thousand. The actual number, over $5 million from one penny. That's the power of the compound effect. That's what happens when small actions accumulate over time. But here's the thing, on day 5, you only have 16 cents. On day 10, you only have about $5. Most people would quit because it doesn't look like much is happening. They can't see the exponential growth that's coming. They can't see that on day 28, they'll have over $1 million. They quit too soon because they're judging their actions by what's happening today instead of what's building for tomorrow. Your daily disciplines work the same way. The results don't show up immediately. Reading one book won't make you educated. Going to the gym once won't make you fit. Making one sales call won't make you rich. But do these things consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, and something magical starts to happen. You start to compound. Your knowledge compounds. Your health compounds. Your income compounds. Your confidence compounds. You become someone different, someone better, someone capable of things you couldn't have imagined when you started. But most people fail because they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years and overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year. They want the results now. They want to read one book and be a genius. They want to work out for 1 month and have the perfect body. They want to save for 1 year and be wealthy. And when it doesn't happen that fast, they get discouraged. They think it's not working. They think there must be a faster way, an easier way, a shortcut. So they quit. They stop doing the disciplines. They go back to their old habits. And then 5 years pass and they're right back where they started, wondering why nothing ever changes. Here's what I want you to understand. There are no shortcuts to anywhere worth going. There are no hacks for genuine growth. There's no way around the daily disciplines. The only way is through. The only way is to show up every single day and do the work, even when you don't feel like it, even when you can't see the results yet, even when nobody else is watching or caring or noticing. That's when character is built. That's when transformation happens. Not in the big moments. Not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet, consistent, unglamorous work of daily discipline. Let me tell you what kills most people's growth, the lies they tell themselves. I don't have time. Really? You don't have 30 minutes in a 24-hour day? You have time to scroll through social media for an hour, but you don't have time to read? You have time to watch television, but you don't have time to work on yourself? The truth is, you have time for what you make time for. You have time for what you value. If growth was truly important to you, you'd find the time. I'll start Monday. Why Monday? Why not today? Why not right now? What magical thing is going to happen between now and Monday that's going to make it easier? Nothing. Monday, you'll have the same excuses, the same fears, the same resistance. The only difference between today and Monday is that you'll have wasted a few more days of your life. Start now. Here's the truth that'll set you free. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. Right now, in this moment, you can make a decision that will alter the entire trajectory of your life. Where you are today, your income, your relationships, your health, your circumstances, all of it is the result of who you were 5 years ago. The decisions you made, the habits you built, the disciplines you practiced or didn't practice. And here's what's even more powerful. Where you'll be 5 years from now depends entirely on who you become starting today. Think about that. 5 years is going to pass whether you grow or not. 5 years from now, you're going to be somewhere. The only question is, where? Are you going to be in the same place you are right now, 5 years older, with the same problems, the same income, the same frustrations, or are you going to be somewhere completely different? Because you made the decision today to become obsessed with your own growth. I've watched people transform their entire lives because they fell in love with the process of becoming. Not with the destination. The destination is important, but it's not what drives you day to day. What drives you is falling in love with who you're becoming. It's waking up every morning excited about the person you're developing into. It's going to bed every night knowing that you're not the same person you were when you woke up. That's the magic. That's what makes growth addictive in the best possible way. But let me warn you about something. When you become obsessed with your growth, when you start reading, learning, developing yourself, when you start setting higher standards and pursuing bigger goals, some people in your life aren't going to like it. The people who aren't growing will criticize your obsession. They'll call you extreme. They'll say you've changed. And they're right, you have changed. That's the whole point. Don't let their comfort with mediocrity pull you back down. Don't let their fear of growth become your ceiling. Here's what I want you to understand. The greatest gift you can give to anyone, your family, your friends, your community, the world, is your own personal development. Because when you become more, you can give more. When you grow, you can serve at a higher level. When you develop yourself, you create value that ripples out and touches everyone around you. Work harder on yourself than you do on anything else, and your life will change in ways you cannot yet comprehend.